This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
What's wrong with me?
Final hour OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Ryan Dempster on Game 4 of the World Series a little bit later in the hour. Noodles chairs.
I'm here. I'm here for some reason.
I thought this was a Halloween spoof. I'm like, is this, are
No.
you turning into a ghost? Are you Patrick Swayze all of a
I
sudden?
don't know what has happened, but all of a sudden my phone, literally my camera. I'm sitting. Obviously, I'm sitting here talking to you,
that.
but
I think it's better. Leave that up. This would be great. People probably watching at bars around the country thinking I'm a lunatic talking to your chair.
That would be hilarious.
Wouldn't that
But
be
no,
great
I'm
for an
like
hour?
sitting here for some reason. I don't know why my camera just went out. So, anyways, I'm
We've
here.
been
We
hacked.
can chat. Yeah, this would be awesome. Just leave it there and start
Wouldn't that
talking.
be great? Just me in your chair for an hour, and I'm just yelling at your chair. I got all these Halloween hot takes, right,
Well,
which we
either
love
way.
to do. And
I will be back in a second. For some reason, my camera reset. But
all
just,
good. It's all
we're
good. It's all. I just figured it was a bit of a Halloween spoof.
No, I
try
did
to
have
keep
that
me on my toes.
I had that mask at the starting of which I thought was kind of
Great
funny
mask.
and cool, but
Awesome.
But for some reason I don't know why all hell has broken loose, but we're good.
It's
will
all
be
good.
Back up and
Yeah,
running.
you had the
Yep.
Stan Van Gundy mask earlier, and it looked. Listen, it's Halloween. My kids, they're on their way out. It's Bedlam all the time. Who are you going to connect with? Who are you going to see? Are you going to dress appropriately? Because it's cold, right? Like it's
Right.
all of a sudden the cold snap hit Toronto. Like we were really lucky for a long time. This time last week it was like 20 degrees outside, and then all of a sudden it just kind of came in Sunday into the week, and now it's Halloween tonight, and it's cold, man. Like I was driving home from the studio this morning. Around 11:30, like snowstorm. There was snow on the 401. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock.
I didn't know that.
Yes, snow and then hail. It was like a wild storm that blew through the east end of the city. And that prepared me for what I'm about to walk into because I'm going to take the kids out. I'll be layered up. I'm going to have a hat on, brew a coffee, whole nine. I'm soft as butter when this cold weather hits.
Well, you'll get out. Like I like this. I do like the 8:00 start for
Perfect for a
this
Leaf
Leaf game. You get out to get the kids out. Now, is there some? I've noticed this, and this is what I enjoy. I start, combing around Twitter, combing around Instagram, all of that, and you find some really good costumes. And I know everyone, everyone's careful with their costumes nowadays, so they should. I mean, there's a lot of sensitivity out, but there's some really creative ones as well. I don't know. My daughter is Taylor Swift. My son is Tom Brady. We wanted
in Tampa
to find
or in New England?
Tampa.
Really? He's a Buccaneers guy.
He's a Bucks guy, but he likes the Minnesota Vikings. The other day, I said to him, buddy, do you want to go to an NFL game? Like I was thinking maybe we go down to Buffalo. He goes, San Diego. Let's go to the San Diego. I go, where did you get that? He goes, let's go to San Diego. I want to see the San Diego Chargers. I go, all right, well, we're not flying to San Diego for a day.
Right.
Ron
Burgundy. Go find the Action News team.
It's just so random.
Listen, he's a man that knows what he wants. I kind of have an appreciation for that. He's like, if we're going to go see a game, I want to see Justin Herbert play.
Well, I said, okay, let's do Detroit. Go down to, Detroit's closer, whatever. I'm looking, but I got to find one in the next couple of weeks where it's like a, good matchup. I actually thought Minnesota, because that's not too crazy of a flight, into Minnie, see Kirk Cousins, but now he's out.
Not going to happen.
There's some big injuries, quarterbacks.
Huge injuries. And it's Achilles, right? Like we're talking Rodgers and Cousins, clearly. But you're right. I mean, there's a number of players that are constantly banged up, or you're just on the verge of something going wrong. Concussions been a part of it this year with Purdy and others, and Detroit's a great field. Ford Field is a phenomenal spot to watch a football game, and they're obviously a good team, fun team. I thought Buck and Aikman did a good job of explaining that last night because they were with Fox for so long, and Fox has always had that Thanksgiving game in Detroit. They always have the first game, the Lions game, and even they were admitting, they're like, we'd go there for some years, and it was a horror show. I mean, it was really depressing how bad they were. I remember the year they went 0-16. They played, I want to say they played Tennessee. I remember watching the game, and I remember the spread was astronomical. It was like Titans like minus 16.5 or something. And
Yeah.
the Titans beat them. It was like 48-7 or so. They crushed them, covered the
Really?
spread. And that was the first team, I believe, the first time in NFL history a team went 0-16. Then the Browns eventually did that, a few years later.
Right.
But it's a real flip. Now all of a sudden the Lions have some mojo, and they've got, some star players on both sides of the ball, and they're going to win that division.
Right.
With Kirk Cousins injured, it is a lock. Like Detroit is going to win the NFC North.
Yeah.
So that'd be a good spot. Buffalo, you're talking Heritage Classic stuff, right? You're talking tailgate, outside, freezing.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a different story. I'm not sure you want to go down that road.
Yeah, I think I need to find a little, maybe a dome.
That's Ford Field. Detroit's your play, man.
It is.
Detroit's your play. Minnesota could be too, but go
Yeah.
see Josh Dobbs make his debut for the Vikings, which will
Yeah.
be coming up soon. James Harden will be making his debut for the Clippers soon. He got his way. I mean, there's a part of me that really, I have to credit him. He wanted out of Houston. He wanted to go to Brooklyn. He got it. He wanted out of Brooklyn. He wanted to go to Philly. He got it. He wanted out of Philly. He wanted to go to L.A. He got it. I mean, this is one of the more unique careers in NBA history. And here is ESPN NBA front office insider Bobby Marks. I'm curious how you view the legacy of James Harden, considering he's achieved what he wanted to achieve again and get to the Clippers, Bobby.
I tell you what, he's got a mastery of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has figured it out as far as the mastery of asking to be traded. And Damian Lillard's probably sitting at home thinking, like, man, what did I,
right?
What did I do wrong? I should have followed the James Harden school of asking to be traded. And yeah, I mean, listen, what's next for James Harden after he goes to the Clippers? I guess we're going to be in a kind of a wait and see approach, but that's basically for next off season here. But Harden goes to the Clippers, and we'll see how that fits. I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, how it fits. Does Westbrook come off the bench? What happens with PJ Tucker? How does Paul George and Kawhi Leonard play off him? Does it make him better than Denver? I don't think so. I mean, Denver, from what I've seen so far and what I've seen from even Golden State, what I've seen so far, I'm not ready to anoint the Clippers to be up there, but it just seems like everybody kind of got what they wanted, and the Clippers, get some draft equity that maybe they can use down the road for another deal. But yeah, we can finally put the James Harden saga behind us and worry about basketball. I mean, we can just kind of focus on basketball for right now.
Yeah, until he either wants out again in LA, which is always possible, or some other superstar decides, all right, now it's my turn. Let's get me out of Dodge. But you mentioned PJ Tucker being a part of this, and I guess technically a throw-in, but there's a veteran. It's played a long time in the NBA. Started up here in Toronto. We're very familiar with him here, and he is added to a veteran group in LA. And I'm curious how you think Kawhi Leonard feels about this, Paul George, like the original guys. Now Russ is there, now Harden, PJ Tucker. They're trying to do something different there. They're trying to load up on 4 or 5 guys that are going to have to play a ton of minutes, and they're all 30 plus. Like, do you think Kawhi, is this a scenario where they're going to rely on Harden to get him through the regular season, and then Kawhi takes over from there? I mean, how does this work?
It's almost like when Brooklyn went out and traded for him in, I guess it was 2021, and Kyrie was absent, and then you had the injury stuff hanging over with Durant. It's like he's like that middle reliever that comes in and gobbles up like 3 or 4 innings, and kind of can get you into your closer, which means closers is closer to the playoffs here. Listen, the injury history of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are well documented, and both guys, the inability for both to stay on the court together. So why is there a reason to believe it? And you move, off, 4 rotational guys for Harden, and PJ Tucker is going to be asked a lot of, and that's going to be the big question here is that what's this roster look like, where they are in the standings, which will be important when we get to mid-April here, because we always say on paper, it makes sense. And I think the big and a reason why we're doing this on October 31st, which is a rarity. You know, these trades don't happen in late October, 3 or 4 games into the season, is that it gives them ample time to figure out what works and what doesn't work and what rotations work here compared to going out and getting James Harden in early February when really you only have 30 games left.
Bobby, have you ever seen this in your career where it's just a player has done this so much where it's just like come to expect, like at some point, some of these teams are just going to go, that it's enough. Like either the player doesn't match the demands. Like, is Harden still good enough? Obviously he is, to get traded because teams still want him. But at some point, do you believe that it's like this is the last stop for him because he, you know, maybe his game erodes or people just don't want the circus to come to town?
I just think it's going to be the last stop because I don't know what team next year is going to want to pay him significant and pay him long term. Like that's the big thing for me is that, you know, I guess it's comparable with, you know, I guess with Kyrie, with Kyrie, whether it be in, you know, went from Cleveland to Brooklyn, now he's in Dallas, you know, probably not on the Harden level, and then you saw, you know, Kyrie, you know, didn't get a max deal and is on a 3-year deal. I just think it's eventually going to run its course here with James Harden next year. Even if he has a great year, it's still hard for me to think a team will commit 2 or 3 years at significant money here. But no, I've never seen it to this extent here. Where I mean, you could even go back to the days of Oklahoma City. I mean, basically, he didn't get what he wanted in a rookie extension. Asked to be traded to Houston. Asked to be traded to Brooklyn or Philadelphia, asked to get traded to Philadelphia, now gets asked to be traded to the Clippers here. And, you know, he's, you know, certainly it's his legacy, which was, you know, MVPs and scoring champions, is somewhat tarnished because of what's happened. And so, no, I haven't seen, to this extent here. And, you know, maybe we look at it differently if they go out and win a championship here and how we look at James Harden. But I certainly look at him, you know, probably in a different way just because of everything that's transpired.
With Bobby Marks of ESPN up here in Toronto, I'm sure this isn't a shock to you, Bobby. There's some panic setting in here, and it's still October. You know, they're 1-3. They got the new coach. Darko came in. I think he infused a lot of positivity, a different energy. Nick Nurse was just in town. I think Nick said exactly what he should have said. It was a great ride, and both parties were ready to move on. He's happy in Philly. The Raptors are happy to move on. But they won that first game, and now they've lost 3 in a row. It was a massacre the way that game ended in Chicago. Just a disaster the way it played out. They get smoked by Philly, and last night that Portland team's terrible, and they're on the back end of a back-to-back. They come in here and beat the Raptors. Their half-court offense, non-existent. They have no depth coming off the bench, yet they want to commit to more bench minutes. It's not good at 1-3. I mean, can you spin this positively? Is there anything you can tell an audience up here in Toronto that will allow us to take a step back and say, you know what, it's only 4 games and it's going to be all good in the end?
I guess I could say that the East outside of Boston is pretty open. I mean, Milwaukee certainly is up there. I mean,
okay,
I guess there's
we'll
a lot of one. I guess Miami's 1-3 and Brooklyn's 1-2, and you know you've got Orlando and Indiana sitting up there too. I felt pretty good about. I know you won the Minnesota game, and then I felt pretty good watching Chicago game until like the 4-minute mark,
yeah,
and then
crazy.
I was just like, what in the heck? It's crazy just because it's like. And I don't want to say dumb, but it's just like the low basketball IQ on some of the things that, you know, Chris fouling DeRozan after Chicago was like 7 for 36 from 3, right? Like, it's just like some of the stuff that happened at the end of that game. And then, you know, certainly Philadelphia comes in and Maxey and Embiid really play well, but I just thought last night was really inexcusable. I mean, there was a point where before that game, I was looking at Portland's schedule, and I only did this because in New Jersey, we hold a dubious record, I think, starting the season 0-18. And I'm thinking, like, well, wait a minute, can this team actually break that record? You know, you go through the schedule here, and then to go in there after them playing in Philadelphia, Toronto's off the day before, and shoot 4 for 29 from 3 and let that team come in and beat you was really just inexcusable here. And so I'm not ready to sound the panic buttons, but I'm interested to see where this team is after 15 games. I mean, I usually say December 15th because that's closer to when most players can be traded. But I'm more of a 15 game sample to see where this is because you guys know. I mean, there's major decisions to figure out here. With Pascal and OG, Gary. Those are your three big guys as far as what you have to figure out, and I just don't think you can. I don't think you can wait and say, you know what, well, we're going to wait to the trade deadline and see where this roster is here, because I think if you're interested in moving off and maximizing the value of these guys, it's, you probably want to get out in front of everybody else here. But I think there's a way to do it. I mean, you look at how Indiana's kind of straddled the fence a little bit here. I mean, I think there's a way to, I don't want to say bottom out, but just kind of keep your head above water here and pick up as many draft value picks, or maybe you get players that can kind of help you right now. But yeah, I'm a little bit concerned just based on the two results. As I said, the Portland game and what happened at the end of that Chicago game.
Yeah, and they traded that pick away for Pirtle. It is protected, but that's another thing they need to consider. I think it's top 6 protected, Bobby.
Yeah,
so
it is. Yeah.
You have an awful season and you pick
like
7th,
Dallas, right? Dallas traded it was way back, but the Porzingis trade, and you saw what happened at the end of the year. Like, wait a minute, like we need that pick now.
Right.
We need to, it carries over for a few years, and when you don't have something like that at your disposal, it makes it a lot harder to go out and make deals if you're going to improve your roster.
When you look at the Toronto Raptors and just look at this team, I mean, it's a star-driven league, correct? And if you look at the Raptors, like, do you believe that Scottie Barnes has a chance to be a top-tier star? Does Grady Dick, everyone on that team, you mentioned that you were naming off names earlier, the Trent and guys like that. They're good players, but I don't think they're superstars. So do those youngsters at least have a chance to be cornerstone pieces that the Raptors can build around?
Yeah, I mean, I like Grady Dick. I mean, I think he's certainly showed some promise here, but I think for now he's a rotational player. I think Scottie has played better than what we saw last year. I thought last year was a struggle. I just think it's a matter of you have a lot of good individual talent. Now it's a matter of just kind of getting it all to fit. Schroeder is interesting just because he's been on so many teams. He's just kind of almost like a hired gun where he goes from team to team, and you got him for a few years here. And you're right. I mean, it is a star-driven league. I mean, I look at what happened in Brooklyn after post Durant and Irving and Harden, where they've got a lot of guys that play hard, but playing hard gets you to 42 wins. I mean, that's the reality of it. Playing hard doesn't get you a closer to finish out games here. And I think, Masai and Bobby are going to have big, questions to ask as far as, where the direction of this team goes.
Ooh, man, It's Halloween. We don't need this type of chat this early in the season, Bobby. But
scaring everyone.
It's a stark reality. It is. He is Bobby Marks of ESPN. Really appreciate you finding time. I know it's a busy day. Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yep.
Bobby Marks. Yeah, listen, as he said, that loss last night, that's a horrible loss. Horrible. Yes. Portland is tanking. They traded Dame. They have injury issues. Everyone knows what you're dealing with. They played the night before in Philly, and for Toronto to look that flat, they shot 14% from 3 is so difficult to do in the modern era. Yeah. And they got out-rebounded, and just shooting from the field in general was not good. Their half-court they're slow. Rajokovic spoke on it after the game. He's like, once we set up, it was slow screens, slow cuts, slow decisions, poor shots. Yeah. I think Scottie Barnes has been very good. He's been very aggressive. Siakam was effectively non-existent last night. Pirtle's getting beat a lot, and it's just a bad start. It's a really bad start for a team that, this front office, we keep talking about it. Where are you going here? And if it's not going to work, then you better reset. And I think the worst-case scenario is they just keep trying and trying and trying, which I can understand the reasoning behind that. You want to sell tickets. You had a championship-caliber team a few years ago. You won a title in 19. But fans up here are not stupid. They know what you have. They know what you don't. And they've been through the ringer before. Raptor fans have been through the ringer. I do wonder if that's a part of it, is Masai Ujiri and the ownership with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. They've never experienced, being at the bottom and really being irrelevant, because there was a long portion of this team's history where, in terms of the NBA, that's what they were. Right. They were just in the league. Players left, they came, they went, they won some games, they lost some games. They were just around. And the reputation was they were blending into the league. And Masai got here and it changed quickly, and they reached the summit. They win a title, and that can be very difficult to accept, that maybe you're going back to where you've never been before. But it might be in the best interest of the franchise to take a step or two back, completely reset, completely reload.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it might have to happen.
Yeah. Well, let's hope they just had a slow start and get into a rhythm.
It's
and
4 games.
They can battle for that 7 to 10 range and grind away. Like, that's kind of where I think everyone is expecting them to be, right? Like
that's pretty much the projection. And as they've been saying, they've been consistent with this. And I think Siakam said the right things today. He was like, new coach, new system. There's going to be some ups and downs. You can't turn on each other, right?
Yes.
Let the rest of the world turn on you if need be. But within the room, you would know this. They have to collectively work and push. But, you look at a game like last night, you look at a start, you look at the end of that Bulls game, you're like, they're the same kind of team than they were last year, maybe a little bit worse, and they didn't do anything different in the offseason except for lose Fred VanVleet, the heartbeat of the team, and bring in a new coach. Yeah. So they still can't shoot. They don't have depth. It's not a good scene for the Raptors right now.
No. It's a grind. It's a battle.
It's a grind. And that first-round pick is in San Antonio. It's top 6 protected. But that's another thing you got to consider. Because they're how the NBA works. When teams tank down the stretch, they are awful.
They're done.
Like, you got to win 18 games. Like, you got to be terrible to make sure you're bottom 6. So that's the concern. Are you going to be bad, but pick 8th? And then you gave up the 8th overall pick for Jakob Poeltl? Like, that's tough to justify. So they got to make a call. All right, Game 4 of the World Series tonight. Ryan Dempster will join us. Leafs-Kings tonight. We'll get into it. Joseph Wall back in the net for the Leafs tonight. The Kings in town for the only time. Drew Doughty's off to a great start. Pierre-Luc Dubois in town as an LA King. We'll get to our best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel, still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. Canada's largest demo club sale is back at Golftown to celebrate. Listen to First Up and Overdrive this Friday for your chance to win a $500 Golftown gift card. Plus, if you follow us on Instagram at TSN 1050, you'll have more chances to win. Golftown's demo club sale is your chance to save up to 40% on gently used demo clubs from top brands like TaylorMade, Ping, Callaway, Cobra, Mizuno, and more. Early online access begins November 2nd at noon at golftown.com. Then on November 4th, the event moves in-store only at all locations. Details at golftown.com. News in on Charlie McAvoy, suspended 4 games for that hit to the head on Ekman Larson last night. That seems appropriate. It's rich, but it's like if Rasmus Andersson got that, if that's where the standard that the league is going to set, then so be it, because they're setting it early. Like, this is early in the season. These are not fourth-line players that they're clipping. Like, Patrick Laine is a top-tier player. Rasmus Andersson is a top defenseman for the Calgary Flames. McAvoy is a star as well. Like, you mess with them, that's it. Like, I don't mind that. No, it should be. Listen, that's been like the Matt Cook era was a long time ago. Man, we're talking 15 years, right, since all hell was breaking loose in the NHL. And I use Cook as one example, but there were a number of players. There was a lot of different stuff happening where guys were getting hit in the head, and it was a real kind of epidemic in the league and a talking point that was consistent. And since then, I think the players have taken it upon themselves to get away from it. But if it starts to, show up a little bit more, then you got to hammer back if you're the league. You can't have it. Like that McAvoy hit last night was careless, reckless, stupid, and it deserved the suspension, and he got it. So, he's out. The Leafs are in Boston on Thursday. I guess by extension here, they benefit from that because there's, that's a guy that's going to play 25 minutes a night. He's the number 1 defenseman.
He's a difference
stud.
maker.
Yeah,
he
he
really
is.
is. You're right. So that does benefit the Leafs. It benefits for the next 4 games anybody who Boston plays. And Boston had an injury as well last night too. As I was watching the game, I can't remember. They lost to Grzelcyk. Matt Grzelcyk left the game as well. So they lost 2D last night. One with suspension, and I don't know what his status was. I didn't read this morning. They didn't have an update. So, you look at it overall. I think it's a bad hit. And it's a greasy hit, and he got clipped, and he's on the books. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, Boston's had a great start. Like they have had as good as Vegas has been, and I think Vegas deserves a lot of attention coming off a Stanley Cup, where the Cup hangover that theory is being thrown out the window with this team because all they're doing is winning games. Boston, considering how well they played last year and how big of a hit they took in the offseason with Bergeron and Krejci leaving, Taylor Hall being traded, Bertuzzi left, Orlov left, guys they picked up at the trade deadline left, and yet it's as if they haven't missed a beat, and it speaks to Brad Marchand, it speaks to Pasternak, McAvoy. The goaltending's been good again, right? That tandem is good. And they've built in this winning culture, at least during the regular season in recent years, that has been very consistent. And it continues. And, again, the Leafs will be in there on Thursday. And Leafs-Kings tonight, puck drop at 8 o'clock. We'll tee that up a little bit later in the hour. We've got our best bets brought to you by FanDuel, where we'll have some bets on the Leaf game tonight and on Game 4 of the World Series, where the Rangers have a real chance here to do some damage tonight, don't they? All they do is win on the road. Noodles. It's remarkable. They are perfect on the road during the playoffs here. But injury issues have shown up here. Garcia will not play tonight. So that is significant. And to chat about it, we're joined now by our good buddy, longtime MLB pitcher, good Canadian boy. Here's Ryan Dempster. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for doing this. How impressed, as a former ball player yourself and a guy that's gone on big playoff runs, the idea that Texas is not lost on the road yet. How do you put that into perspective?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing. I think we're all trying to find perspective of that and why it's happening and how they've able to accomplish this. We had Will Smith, the reliever for the Rangers, on today on Intentional Talk, and we asked him about a couple different things. One of them being hot dogs, and I know it seems silly, and he said, we had a road trip in Toronto where they came in and I think they swept the Blue Jays. And they said we ate the hot dogs in the locker room and just kind of became a thing. And we went on the road, we eat hot dogs, and they came here and they couldn't get hot dogs on their workout day. So they got them delivered from Five Guys and they go out there and they win again. And I'm like, is this really like the power of belief of what you're eating is leading to this? I mean, I can't justify any other reason why. Got to be the hot dogs.
Yeah, it has to be the hot dogs. That makes sense.
You can't explain it. You can't. I mean, I know they're good baseball players, but there's some sort of superstition thing that they got going because this makes zero sense. Why is a team in the playoffs 9-0 on the road and they struggle at home? It's like they go on the road. I don't know if it's the heavenly beds in the hotel or what, but they are absolutely dominating teams. They did it to Houston, and now they're doing it to Arizona.
Wasn't it the Red Sox that were kind of said to hell with it, and guys were doing like a shot before they headed out or something like that when they won the World Series?
Yeah, they were Jack Daniels before. That was the 04 Red Sox. Our turn 2013 team, we couldn't afford good liquor like that,
The curse was over.
Silk Tassel, Alberta whiskey or something like that. That wouldn't do it. That would put people under the table. So you couldn't have that. I wanted to ask you.
It's really an enigma. I can't figure it out.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Blue Jays fans are struggling a little bit, obviously not because they went deep into the playoffs, but you're looking at a guy like Gabriel Moreno and what he's been able to do. Is he that legit? Do they have a gripe when you're watching a guy get traded and potentially could be, a World Series MVP if he continues to cook?
Yeah, it's got to be hard, right? I imagine that's hard. I mean, we've talked about it. We can't really understand it. The different teams make different moves for different reasons. It was confusing to me at the time that it happened. Like if the trade had been like Gurriel for Varsho, straight up and maybe some other little pieces. But when you're getting rid of your number one prospect and your stud catching prospects are hard to find. And now I know you got Alejandro Kirk and you got Danny Jansen, but this kid was, his tools were there already. He's young. He's athletic. And he's been fun to watch. So I imagine that would make a fan of the Blue Jays scratch their head and say, we had this kid and we traded him and Gurriel and we got, a good player back. But like to trade away your number one prospect, or top prospect, one of, and he's a catcher, was a little bit perplexing at the time. And then it just gets, an exclamation point on it when he's doing what he's been doing in the postseason. And he's young, but man, he just calm at the plate. He has a great approach, and he's handled the pitching staff extremely well. And he's catching and throwing. He's doing everything. He's taking hits from Bryce Harper at home plate and just trucking along. So, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be one when you look at trades. There's always those down the road where a team maybe feel like they got fleeced. I feel like when we look at it right now, that's how it seems.
With Ryan Dempster, Game 4 World Series tonight, Aroldis Chapman has been quite the story. His backstory is pretty incredible. The idea how he got to the majors, how he was let go, multiple teams kind of turning their back on him, and this guy has been lights out. Garcia. Sorry, I'm talking about Garcia and his injury and him being out tonight. How big of a hit could this be for Texas tonight? And, the idea that he's been so good and everything's been rolling, what kind of an impact, TSN turning point could we be talking about here?
Yeah, potentially a series costing one, right? You're taking – so what happens is multiple things. One, his own production and what he's able to do with the bat and what he's able to do defensively. We saw him throw Christian Walker out at home plate last night and all these things, and the presence that he brings, the emotion that he brings, all of that. Then you have the trickle-down effect. Now Corey Seager doesn't have Adolis Garcia behind him to protect him. So now are we going to see Arizona just put Corey Seager on first base because it makes more sense? Because you don't have that bat behind him that's slugging like that. So, yeah, I think if this is something that's lost for the entire series, you might look back and say that was the turning point where, changed the whole entire complexion of the entire series. And this is a huge loss. Make no mistakes about it. Like, I know that there's other people, but there's the only thing you can do about it as a team is continue to go out there and play because nobody feels sorry for you. The other team doesn't. The fans in the ballpark tonight aren't going to feel sorry for you. So you got to figure out a way to win. But this is a humongous loss for them.
Yeah, and this Texas team, both these teams, the fact that they're in the World Series, I think would have shocked most people, Ryan, a month ago, let alone a couple of months ago. Yet, everyone's going to have a different response to whoever ends up winning, the ripple effect that it could happen and have in baseball where all of a sudden it's all you got to do is get hot or all you got to do is do this, that, or the other. Do you picture that from either of these teams? Like, is there one lesson that could come out of it from the fact that the Diamondbacks and the Rangers have made the World Series and one of them are going to be triumphant here?
Yeah, I think, a couple things that I take away from it. One, it's really hard to truly understand, how hard the marathon of baseball is. Like what one team might look like in April and then looks different in June. And then all of a sudden a team in July. I mean, look at the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks came out of the All-Star break and were 5-20 out of the break. Like, wrap your head around that. They went 5-20.
Right.
And then all of a sudden just get hot, start playing well. Everybody starts feeling something, and then boom, they go off. And then they get on this run, and then there's these different things, and then you have this mark on your back where it's like, oh, they're no good. So then everybody, they unites them in that locker room. Everybody in there joins together. So I would say I was a little more shocked with the Diamondbacks just because you don't have those big, huge name stars. You don't have the $300 million players. You don't have this rotation. I mean, Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly are both studs, but it's not a four-stud deep rotation. Texas, I was a little bit more, believer just because of players on their team. Some of the guys like Corey Seager, like Garcia and Marcus Semien, and, even just their pitching staff from a rotation standpoint, a little bit more solid. I was a little shocked they got by Houston, but it didn't surprise me just because I think they're solid. So, yeah, it just shows you that don't ever let anybody pigeonhole you into what team you think you might be. All that matters is those guys in the locker room. And when you're in that locker room, you can make some special things happen. You have to believe in each other. You have to manifest situations by talking to each other and talking about how great you can be and positive thinking, because the outside noise can get to you, and then that creeps in your head and you believe it. And I think both teams did a really good job of just playing baseball and blocking out the noise. They're not flashy. They go about the game. They just play hard. And next thing you know, they're sitting here in Game 4 of the World Series.
Ryan, a lot of noise about the umpiring in Game 3. Where were you at? And where are you at?
Very good.
No.
Well, that's what I mean. It was. I mean, you expect the best of the best, and when you're in the finals or any type with it, regardless of any sport, you expect everybody to be at the top of their game, and it sounds like it wasn't a very good performance from the umpire. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, just too many close pitches missed. Every pitch in every game is big, and then when you get down, you got possibly sitting here with 4 games left, right? Like, I can't have you missing pitches in big situations, and drawing walks because I throw it. You have to. That's a lack of focus. Like, there has to be more accountability. Let's put it that way. I'm not saying he's not qualified. He's a great umpire, but at the end of the day, you should never be umpiring a playoff game because of tenure. That's like saying, well, you know what? This team's got a bunch of old guys on the team, so they haven't been to the World Series before. We should make sure they go because they've been playing for a long time. They deserve it. You need the best umpires who have the most consistent strike zone umpiring the games. And if you have a bad game, you should be the possibility of that taken away. There has to be that fear of that. Otherwise, you're just going to have those kind of careless calls again. You have to lock it in. I don't need you to make mistakes right now. I understand you might miss a call or two, but when you're missing 10 strikes, 12 balls, 10, 12, that's unacceptable. It's the greatest stage there is. The best players are out there. The best umpires need to be out there. And cool, if you're a good umpire at umpiring the bases, umpire the bases. If you're really good at home plate, umpire home plate. Why can't you work multiple home plates in the series? If you're a really good umpire, that's the way it should be. Don't we want the best of the best? So I've always said that. I played baseball, professional baseball, Major League Baseball. I was a pitcher. I didn't go play right field. I didn't hit in the 3-hole. But I knew a lot about baseball, and I was really good at my position. So I think the same thing for umpires. I think we do it just because we're supposed to, and instead we should do it because we should have the best umpires in there.
The show is Off the Mound with Ryan Dempster, and Game 4 of the World Series. It's going to be a fun one tonight, Ryan. Enjoy it. We really appreciate you finding time for us, as always. Thank you for this.
You got it, guys. My pleasure.
There he is, Ryan Dempster. Game 4 tonight. The umpire, he makes a great point. It's always rotating. It's like if you have a guy that has a great strike zone, a great eye for it, a great feel for it, is in the zone, have him umpire every game.
Yes, the best of the best. It's not
whoever's behind the plate. 7 games, you're back there. It's not house league. Now I'm going to first base, and then I'll, be in center field, and it's like, what are you talking about, man?
There was so much. What did you call it? The sports vortex last night. There was
the
just
equinox,
so much.
Yeah,
the
I know,
equinox, it was all over. But I see that trending. I'm like, okay, they got Leslie Nielsen behind the plate again, and I'm like, that is it. Just you work so hard to get to the finals, to get to the World Series. You can't have a participation badge back there. And I'm sure the guy's good. I think it was Miller, right? Was it Bill
and if
Miller?
He's in the World Series, a part of a crew that
exactly
they're competent based on the standards.
But have the best. Have the you want the guy who's known as the best. There's a reason why, and you're right. He should do all 7 games.
Every single game in the World Series, the best of the best is behind the plate. That's it. Period.
I agree.
We'll get to our best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel. Maybe sneak in another trick or treat, which we revealed earlier this afternoon. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
Now, back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Leafs Kings tonight. Kevin Fiala, 3+ shots. He's off to a great start. Really good player. Under 6.5, though, tonight. I think it's a sleeper game, more of a checking intensity type of game. I could see this being 3-2 tonight, maybe 4-2, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a lower scoring game. Like Diamondbacks money line tonight. The Rangers finally lose on the road. And Gurriel Jr. to register a hit. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. to register a hit tonight. I was watching the game last night, and I think it was the Fox broadcast I was watching. When Gurriel's up, they naturally just brought up the Jays, and it's like, hey, here's Gurriel. It's like they're reintroducing him to the American audience. You would know him as a Blue Jay. There he is in the World Series. So there it is. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Today's best bets, again, powered by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today and find thousands of ways to play. Please play responsibly. 19 plus. Physically located in Ontario. All right, you want to get to a little more trick or treat after
I love
dark
those.
here? Yeah, we did trick or treat in place of confirm or deny. I thought it worked out pretty well. You want to fire one up?
Well. Yep.
Refusing to give high school kids candy on Halloween is the right thing to do. Trick or treat, Noodles. Turning people down, 14 and up, Heisman.
What the parameters are? Trick is agree? Or
Trick is agree with that take. Treat is disagree with that take.
I'm going to go treat, and I'll tell you why. Because those same people an hour later have the ability to come by and throw eggs at your house or take a dump on your lawn or whatever kids want to do.
Talk to Larry David about that.
Yeah, act up. So if they want to get out and get a little free candy and they're 18 years old, like kid shows up with a mustache and it's like it's not a painted on one. So be it. And usually they come by at 9 o'clock and you want to clean out the candy. I told you at the start of the show, I think I have 700 pieces. I've had one kid show up so far.
Yeah, no one's showing up. I know.
One.
You never get anyone out there. I don't know what you were thinking.
I had a boatload. I had a boatload last year, so I was like, okay. They come in bunches. It's not that warm out, so while we were on with Bobby Marks, I was looking, and there was a kid that come up, and I went onto the camera, and I'm like, take a bunch, take as much as you want.
100 if you want.
Yeah, and the mom was very nice at that. But once we've done the show, I'll engage with whoever comes. But it looks like it's pretty quiet. Really, I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's wild. We get hundreds of kids, and I thought I heard a kid kind of complain. I only gave a 2-pack out, and I was like, you're cheap. Like, all right, just relax, move on.
I was going to message you earlier, though. Do you remember you were going to hand out hot takes instead of candy? I was hoping, I swear to God, we've got mobile kits and that. I wanted you to set up right in the front, your front step. Like, open the door. I promise I
will do that. You know what I should have done is just recorded something at a minimum that we could have played. Me outside handing out hot takes for Halloween, because then you're really asking for trouble, right? You think a 2-pack isn't enough? Wait till I tell you what, I think the Leafs are going to win the President's Trophy
exactly.
this year.
Like, you know what? Here's 2 pieces of candy, and William Nylander's going to be a finalist for the Hart. Take that with you, kid. Like, you just hand it. Like, I was dying for that. I almost thought that maybe we could set that up where you'll have a desk or a table.
I just need help with that kind of stuff to get it out there, make sure the Wi-Fi is connected. I don't know. I was a little bit nervous about that.
Yeah.
But I'm with you on this one. It's a trick. You hand it out. There's a great Curb Your Enthusiasm bit on this where 2 teenagers show up. They're not in a costume. And he's like, you can't just show up and solicit people for candies. And they come back and they toilet paper his house. And his wife's like, you're an idiot. It's 2 pieces of candy. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the truth. Just don't mess with kids on Halloween. Hand it out. Move on with your life. All right, JP, agree. What else do we have? The Vancouver Canucks are taking on the scary demeanor of their head coach and will rock it all the way to the playoffs. Ooh, Rick Tocchet, the Rocket himself. I don't know. He is scary behind that bench, man. I'll say that.
He is, and all the way to the playoffs. Like I would say trick and say sniff. Like the language. I think they could sniff the playoffs. I really think it, and it's not because. You look at their top players, they've had good starts. Hughes, Pettersson, Demko. The way they're built, a number 1 centerman, a number 1 defenseman, and a number 1 goaltender, all have had good starts. They're getting health. Mikheyev coming back. They added to their D. It's a different look. It's kind of longer and meaner. I could see Pacific Division is kind of a crapshoot, there you go.
Yeah, they got Nashville at home tonight. I think they win that game. Yeah, I'm going to say it's a treat. Like, I'm moving in that direction as well, where, like, I'm Seattle, I don't know if they're going to dig themselves out. They very well could. It's still very early.
Yeah, they snuck one out last time. What was it, in overtime,
yes,
I think?
They did.
Against Tampa.
Against Tampa. That's tough. Yeah. Like, that's a tough spot to win. I think Edmonton will get back. Like, I expect Edmonton to get back and find a spot. Now, maybe it's not top 3. Maybe it's wild card in the end. Yeah. But Edmonton, I think, will get back. I don't think Calgary will. I'm not sure Seattle will, and we know San Jose and Anaheim are terrible. So, take that for what it's worth. Vegas is going to run away. LA is going to get in. Yeah, I think there's a chance. Like you mentioned, Demko, who's been healthy and good. Quinn Hughes has been phenomenal. Patterson's a superstar. And then they've got a decent support staff. Besser, can he put it together for a full season? JT Miller's obviously a good player. Yeah, it's crazier things have happened. I'm going to say this is officially the new coach bump. It wasn't really last year when Tocchet showed up. It's more of a full camp, full off season, and a full 82 games.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm rooting for it. I think it'd be a cool story. Like Vancouver's been they've been out of the mix for a long time. They really have been. So we'll see. All right, Leafs Kings tonight. Should be a fun one. 8 p.m. puck drop on TSN. So we'll have a full breakdown of that tomorrow. Full breakdown of the Halloween festivities. Game 4 of the World Series. There's a lot going on. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, podcast, radio, or web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy all the games. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.